Spiritual Ministration, Chapter 9, Dhyana, Part 1. Preliminaries to the practice of Dhyana. Introduction. Sri Sivabalayogi Maharaj initiates and guides sadhakas essentially on the path of Dhyana Yoga. In the perception of most people, Dhyana is a mysterious and esoteric path which they regard with awe and reverence, but which they nevertheless consider to be beyond their ken and understanding. This in turn makes them hesitant and reluctant to undertake the practice of Dhyana. Even among those who are persuaded to take to Dhyana, there exist many doubts and misunderstandings which are compounded by pretentious and confusing statements by people who, though themselves quite ignorant, yet pose as advanced sadhakas and pseudo-gurus purporting to teach others when in fact they only add to their confusion. The purpose of this chapter, therefore, is to clear such doubts and misunderstandings, and to provide a guide with the help of which earnest sadhakas can do abhyas or practice of dhyana. The contents of this chapter are based on the teachings and guidance imparted by Sri Swamiji from time to time. However, it needs to be stressed that only aspects of general applicability have been covered. Advanced sadhakas who seek personal guidance should refer their problems directly to Sri Swamiji. The contents of this chapter are essentially practical guidelines for dhyana. No attempts have been made to set out any basic underlying theory or philosophy. This is as it should be, because whereas in other yogas, theory guides practice, in Dhyana Yoga, practice unfolds theory, and the sadhaka acquires automatic understanding of spiritual matters and the deepest spiritual truths as he progresses in his dhyana. Dhyana Diksha, initiation into dhyana. Aspirants who wish to take Dhyana Diksha are made to sit facing Sri Swamiji. All present are then asked to close their eyes, and a disciple, after receiving Sri Swamiji's blessing, touches each aspirant on the spot between the eyebrows, which is known as the Biography, and instructs him to concentrate his sight and mind on that spot. The aspirants are then required to do dhyana in the presence of Sri Swamiji for approximately 1 hour. Through the touch given between the eyebrows prior to the commencement of dhyana, and by his look of grace during the dhyana which follows, Sri Swamiji imparts spiritual power to the aspirant, which will be of great value and assistance to him in future sadhana and further practice of dhyana. It is the recorded experience of many thousands who have received Diksha from Sri Swamiji in this manner, that they have been blessed with some form of spiritual experience during the period of dhyana following the Dhyana Diksha. This experience can take many forms. For example, seeing colors, or having a vision of light, or in the case of many advanced aspirants, having a vision of their Ishtadev. In fact, failure to see any vision during the Dhyana Diksha is primarily due to some shortcoming of the aspirant. Either there is lack of faith, many come not as genuine aspirants but primarily to test Swamiji's powers, or the aspirant is unable to still his eyeballs and gaze steadily at the root of the eyebrows, or his mind is diverted by thoughts or worries and he is unable to achieve ekagrata or concentration or one-pointedness of mind, or he is fidgety and moves his body and opens his eyes and thereby breaking concentration. Undoubtedly, those who have had no previous practice or training in dhyana will inadvertently make one or more of these mistakes, and hence are unlikely to get any vivid experience. On the other hand, those who can successfully concentrate their sight and mind at the Prakriti during the Dhyana Diksha will certainly be vouchsafed a spiritual experience. This will generally come as a momentary flash sometime towards the close of the 1 hour dhyana period. But whether they get a spiritual experience or not, almost every aspirant experiences a deep feeling of peace during the dhyana, which in itself is a clear indicator of the spiritual benefit and power of the Diksha given by Sri Swamiji. As it is generally customary to give a mantra during Diksha, many aspirants are curious to know why Sri Swamiji does not give mantra Diksha. There are 2 reasons. Firstly, as will be discussed later, a mantra is not necessary for doing dhyana when one follows the technique of dhyana taught by Sri Swamiji. Secondly, In the case of those aspirants whose personal inclinations and other factors require the imparting of a mantra for the furtherance of their sadhana, the correct mantra will be spontaneously and automatically manifested to them during their normal practice of dhyana. Use of vibhuti. At the conclusion of the dhyana diksha, the sadhaka is given some vibhuti, which has been blessed by Sri Swamiji. This vibhuti must at all times be regarded as very sacred. If it is accidentally spilled on the ground or defiled in any other way, it will lose its potency. Before commencing the practice of dhyana, the sadhaka must first do puja to this vibhuti with incense and coconut. Thereafter, the sadhaka must apply a tikka of this vibhuti at the spot between the eyebrows whenever he sits for dhyana. Time for dhyana. Dhyana may be done at any time of day or night. However, Sri Swamiji advises that the sadhaka must do a minimum of 1 hour's dhyana at any one sitting. The reason for the stipulation are obvious. A sadhaka will find that during the early stages of this practice, almost the entire period of 1 hour, often more, will be required to still the sight and mind and to concentrate them at the brikuti. Also, as will be explained subsequently, dhyana proper does not commence till such time as the stillness and concentration of sight and mind have been achieved. Therefore, merely sitting with eyes closed for half an hour or so and then getting up thinking that one has done the required dhyana for the day is only deceiving oneself. In fact, the basic criteria for fixing the minimum period of dhyana should not be just a time factor of 1 or more hours. It should be based on the time required by the sadhaka to achieve ekagrata and thereafter to remain in the state of dhyana as described subsequently for at least 15 to 30 minutes. This being the case, the sadhaka himself is the best judge of the time that he requires to achieve this. Those who wish to seriously pursue the practice of dhyana must increase the period of dhyana gradually with the aim of doing at least 10 to 12 hours of dhyana daily, more if possible. This 10 to 12 hours need not be in one stretch. It can be broken up into periods of 2 to 4 hours, depending on the capability of the sadhaka. In this context, it needs to be stressed that the sadhaka should not forcibly sit for dhyana for long periods. The increase in the period of dhyana should be a natural process in keeping with the development of his dhyana practice. The early hours of the morning and the hour of dusk are the best times of the day to do dhyana, as the mind is naturally calm and composed during these periods. However, those who cannot for any reason do dhyana during these times may choose any other time that suits their convenience. But whatever time they choose, it is very desirable that sadhakas do dhyana at a fixed time every day. The cultivation of such a habit will assist them in their dhyana, because just as one feels hungry at one's regular meal time, so also will one feel a natural urge or inclination to do dhyana at the habitual dhyana time. Even more important than having proper fixed timings for dhyana is the need for regularity in practice. To illustrate the harm that irregularity in sadhana can do, if a sadhaka misses out one day in his dhyana practice, it will take him 7 to 10 days to make up for the setback caused to his progress by that single day's irregularity. Place of dhyana. Dhyana should be done in a secluded spot or quiet room where there is no disturbance or distraction caused by people coming in or going out or talking in the vicinity. The room should also be darkened to the extent possible, as this is helpful for the practice of dhyana. Asana. We next come to the question of the correct asana or posture to adopt while doing dhyana. In this regard, it is preferable that the sadhaka adopts either the Padmasana or the Siddhasana or the Virasana during his dhyana practice. However, if he finds these asanas difficult, he may adopt any asana or posture that he finds easy or comfortable. The main points to keep in mind regarding asana are: A. The spine should be kept erect. B. The weight of the body should be evenly distributed on the underside of the thighs and buttocks. If the weight is kept too far back, then the main burden will be borne by the spine, as a consequence of which the sadhaka will tire quickly. C. The body must be completely relaxed and at ease. If any part of the body is kept artificially stretched and taut, this will lead to early tiring, of the concerned muscles, which in turn will lead to cramps and pains in that part of the body. And D. The face must be held level and even lifted slightly upwards. It should never be allowed to droop downwards. If the face is allowed to droop down, it becomes difficult to retain concentration and sight and mind, and there will be a tendency to fall asleep. If, due to fatigue, muscular pain, or any other reasons, a sadhaka cannot retain a steady posture, he may change his asana and continue dhyana. However, he must be careful not to break the concentration of his sight and mind at the prakriti, particularly the sight, during the process of changing the asana. Physical fitness and diet. It goes without saying that unless a sadhaka is in sound health, he cannot hope to undertake dhyana, because bodily ailments will distract the mind and prevent concentration. In the case of illness, a sadhaka should take sacred vibhuti mixed with water, and the illness will be cured. Prolonged sadhana requires bodily strength and energy. Hence, it is essential that a sadhaka takes a nutritious and balanced diet in moderate quantities. Dhyana should preferably be done on an empty stomach or light stomach, as an overloaded or full stomach tends to make a sadhaka mentally and physically sluggish. For those who practice dhyana for long hours, it is desirable that when they terminate their dhyana, they should drink a glass of milk or partake some other light repast, and thereafter they should rest for a while before resuming other work. Once the foregoing essential preliminaries have been grasped, the sadhaka should commence serious practice of dhyana. To do this, it is first necessary to clearly understand the basic of the technique of doing dhyana. The technique of dhyana. Lakshaya, aim or purpose of dhyana. When a person embarks on any quest, he must from the start know what he is seeking, else he is likely to falter or go astray. Similarly, dhyana can only be practiced purposefully when the sadhaka is clear from the very start what he should strive to attain. In other words, he must be clear about the lakshaya or aim of dhyana. It is because of misunderstanding or confused thinking on this basic aspect that sadhakas wander off into incorrect practices and consequently go astray in their sadhana. All of our scriptures declare that the mind is the cause of our bondage, and that manonash or destruction of mind is mukti, release from bondage. If we try to analyze this mind, we find that the mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts. If we can successfully eliminate the thought waves of the mind, then, like a lamp that is extinguished for want of oil, the mind as we know it will subside and die, and we will attain realization of the Atman, which is our real and eternal nature. The aim and purpose of dhyana, therefore, is to achieve the destruction of the mind by controlling the manovrittis, i.e., the thought waves of the mind. In essence, what is implied is that the sadhaka during dhyana should aim at stilling the mind by eliminating all thoughts. When thought is thus eliminated, only chit or pure awareness remains. Once this state of pure awareness is attained, the sadhaka should strive to focus his entire mind on this residual awareness and keep it steadily poised in this state, unobstructed by even the faintest trace of thought. By continuously holding on to this state, the mind will die, and Atma Sakshatkara or self-realization will arise of its own accord. Technique of dhyana. Having clarified our mind on what we must strive to achieve, we must now concern ourselves with how this is to be achieved. In other words, we must now study the method of or technique of dhyana in order to facilitate a clearer understanding of the whole process of dhyana has been explained step by step in the paragraphs that follow. In this context, the reader should be cautioned that though the technique of dhyana has been broken up into distinct and separate stages, this has been done primarily to enable a better understanding of the entire process. While putting this technique into practice, the sadhaka will find that many of these different aspects merge together and occur simultaneously, which is as it should be. He need make no further effort to compartmentalize each stage. Steadying the vision. When commencing dhyana, the sadhaka must first still the movement of the eyeballs by fixing his gaze on the brikuti, space between the eyebrows. The novitiate usually makes the mistake of trying to still the sight by looking forcibly inwards. This causes strain to the muscle of the eyeballs, resulting in fatigue of these muscles. As a consequence, instead of being stilled, the eyeballs start quivering involuntarily, and if the sadhaka persists in this practice, he is likely to develop a headache. This is obviously wrong. The process of stilling the sight should be a gradual and natural process, wherein the sadhaka continues to gaze steadily at the brikuti without any strain whatsoever, until he can hold his vision steady at that spot without allowing the eyeballs or eyelids to flicker. This is a very important preliminary, as unless the sadhaka has mastered this aspect, further progress in dhyana is not possible. Initially, the sadhaka may take 15 to 20 minutes to achieve the steadiness of vision. Later, if he continues practicing regularly, he will receive help in the stilling process by the development of the divine power given by Sri Swamiji during the initiation. Initially, the development and manifestation of this power will be felt as heaviness of the eyelids. Gradually, as this power develops and with practice, the sadhaka will find that as soon as he sits for dhyana, the power takes hold, and almost forcibly, as it were, the vision is concentrated at the brikuti and held steadily there. Stilling the mind. It is the nature of the mind to flow out through the brain and the sense organs, and thus becoming aware of the world of names and forms. As a first step, therefore, this outward flow of the mind in myriad thought forms is to be checked, and the mind made ekagrata, or one-pointed. This is done by concentrating the entire mind on the brikuti, and thereafter not allowing even a single thought to arise. Even the basic thought of I am doing dhyana must not be allowed to crop up. Concentration and chit. When the sight and the mind have been stilled and the pure state of ekagrata is achieved, all names, forms and thoughts will fade away, and only chit or pure consciousness will remain. The chit has no concrete form that can be grasped by the mind. It is the gradual awareness of existence of aham, or I am, that remains when all thought forms have been eliminated. When the sadhaka achieves this state, it will be something like gazing into vacancy. Initially, this may appear like gazing at a blank wall of darkness. Thereafter, this darkness will give way to light and will appear like gazing into a lightened crystal or a blazing mass of light. Commencement of dhyana. It is only when the state of ekagrata or concentration on pure chit is achieved, by concentrating the sight and mind at the brikuti, that actual dhyana commences. All else that precedes the attainment of this state is only a prelude to dhyana. This preliminary process and must not be mistaken for dhyana. Having attained the state of ekagrata on pure chit, the sadhaka must then attempt to retain that state unbroken by even a single thought wave. To put it into correct perspective, then, dhyana is the effort made by the sadhaka to continue to abide in the state of pure chit. The excellence of the practice of dhyana lies in not allowing even a single vritti or mental concept to disturb the state of pure awareness of being. Even the idea that he is doing dhyana should not be present in the mind. When the sadhaka thus attempts to keep his mind steady and poised on pure chit, various thought waves impelled by purva samskar or inherent tendencies will try to rise and disturb even the even flow of his mind. The sadhaka must remain vigilant and alert, and as soon as each thought crops up, it must be gently brushed aside and the calm flow of the mind retained. The mind during dhyana should remain still and unflickering like a lamp in a windless place, and the calm flow of the mind should remain unbroken like a continuous flow of oil. The Guru's grace. The technique of dhyana described above is an attempt to explain step by step the process of dhyana. However, by purna samagati, self-surrender at the feet of the Guru, and by unswerving abhyas or practice of dhyana, the power given by Sri Swamiji at the time of Diksha begins to develop in the sadhaka. When that happens, he will find that the entire preliminary process leading to attainment of the state of dhyana is automatically accomplished by this power. All that the sadhaka has to do then is to make the mind quiescent and to surrender to this power. Then this power or Shakti takes over. Concentrates the sight and mind on the Prakriti and holds it there. If a sadhaka feels agitation of the mind, flickering of the eyesight or tightness or pain near the eyes or forehead, he will find that these symptoms are due to his unconsciously resisting the functioning of this Shakti by fleeting thoughts. The moment these thoughts are stilled and the mind becomes quiescent again, these symptoms disappear, and the Shakti resumes its automatic process of concentrating the sight and mind on the Prakriti. Such is the beneficent effect of the Guru's grace. Some problems and misconceptions common to beginners. Turbulence of the mind. It is the unvaried experience of those who take to dhyana for the first time that as soon as they sit for dhyana, all sorts of thoughts arise and they find it almost impossible to control the mind. They should not be worried or discouraged by this phenomenon, because dhyana can be likened to a churning of the vast ocean of vasanas or latent tendencies which have accumulated from beginningless time. Unless these vasanas are destroyed, the Atman cannot be realized. In order to accomplish this, the practice of dhyana throws up these vasanas in the form of an endless stream of thoughts. As each thought is quelled or controlled, the related vasanas get destroyed. Since he does not know or understand this, the sadhaka faced with this problem in the preliminary stages of his sadhana invariably thinks that this is a problem peculiar to him alone, and hence feels discouraged and dejected on this account. Therefore, he is usually surprised and relieved to learn that this is the universal experience of every sadhaka when he starts on the path of dhyana. Whereas it may be a source of solace to know that turbulence of the mind is a common problem for all beginners, it does not help the sadhaka to control his wayward thoughts. In fact, it appears to be an impossible task, and sadhakas despair of ever being able to gain mastery over their minds. Therefore, the question of how the mind should be controlled is a recurring theme on all the scriptures. In this context, two well-known questions and answers on this subject may be quoted. The first, taken from the Yoga Vasishta, is the question put by Sri Rama to Vasishta Mahamuni. O Guru, is it not possible to control the mind? One may sooner drink up the oceans or lift up Mount Meru or swallow flaming fire than control the mind. To this, Vasishta replies, O Rama, though the mind is hard to control, yet it must be subdued by vairagya, dispassion, and effort, practice, even at the cost of wringing our hands, clenching your teeth, and holding down the senses and limbs. It must be controlled by willpower. In the second example, taken from the Bhagavad Gita, a similar question is put by Arjuna to Sri Krishna. Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna pramati balavad drishtam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudakshara. For Krishna, the mind is very unsteady, turbulent, tenacious and powerful, and therefore I consider it as difficult to control as the wind. Sri Krishna replies, Asamshayam mahabaho mano duni graham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihate. The mind is restless, no doubt, and difficult to subdue, Arjuna, but it can be brought under control by constant practice, abhyasa, and by exercising dispassion, vairagya. From the foregoing examples, it can be seen that even such great personages as Sri Rama and Arjuna were afflicted by turbulence and restlessness of mind, which should make it amply clear that it is a universal malady. And from the replies given by Vasishta and Sri Krishna, it should be equally clear that there are no shortcuts to controlling the mind. For as per the advice given by Vasishta to Sri Rama and Sri Krishna to Arjuna, the two infallible remedies are cultivating vairagya and undertaking constant abhyas by resolute adherence to these two guiding principles. The earnest sadhaka will gradually gain control over his mind. Of this there need be no doubt. Notwithstanding all his resolution and efforts, there will be days when the mind is more agitated than normal and the sadhaka finds it difficult to control his surging thoughts by the normal processes of dhyana. On such occasions, there is little point in forcibly trying to continue dhyana. The agitation of mind caused by the onrush of thoughts must first be subdued and the mind made calm. Only then can dhyana be attempted again. Through a number of methods, though a number of methods are prescribed for this purpose, the most efficacious is pranayam or breath control. It is an infallible rule that when the mind is controlled, the breath is controlled, and conversely. When the breath is controlled, the mind becomes controlled. Therefore, by doing pranayam even for a few minutes, as the breath becomes calm and regular, the mind will also begin to calm down. In this context, it is emphasized that only the simplest form of pranayam should be practiced for a period of 5 to 10 minutes only, and as soon as the mind becomes calm, pranayam should be discontinued and normal dhyana started. Otherwise, unless pranayam is done under the guidance of a qualified teacher, it can lead to harm. A simpler and almost equally effective method is to mentally watch the inhaling and exhaling motion of the breath within the nostrils, and this will result in the breathing becoming calm and regular, and will in turn lead to calming the mind. In spite of all his efforts to calm it, the mind still continues to be agitated. If in spite of his efforts to calm it, the mind still continues to be agitated, then the sadhaka should continue his dhyan, discontinue his dhyan and leave his seat and read some scriptural or other holy book, or listen to, or himself do bhajans and kirtan, or do mental japa. When the agitation of the mind subsides, then he should sit for dhyana again. Steadying the sight and concentrating the mind. The process of steadying the sight and concentrating the mind is often misunderstood and wrongly applied by beginners. As explained in the technique of dhyana, no force should be applied in concentrating the vision at the prakriti, and once the vision has been steadied, it must be held there. Most beginners forget this, and after a few minutes their eyeballs become unsteady and start flitting about again. This must be guarded against, as unless the vision is steady, there can be no progress in dhyana. Similarly, many beginners make the mistake of trying to achieve concentration of mind by physical effort, such as knitting the eyebrows and forcefully looking at the prakriti, etc. Such practices will only result in fatigue and pain in the facial muscles, and if persisted for any length of time, the sadhaka is likely to develop headache. In this context, it needs to be remembered that the concentration of mind is a purely mental process and no physical act is involved. In the same way, the injunction that one should dive deep within during dhyana is often misinterpreted to mean that one should make the mind see deep within the physical body, or try to make it sink into the internal recesses of the body. In fact, diving deep within means making the bahirmukhi or outward turned mind as antarmukhi or inward turned. It is the habit of thought that makes the mind bahirmukhi. Therefore, the degree to which the mind is made antarmukhi depends solely on the extent to which the sadhaka is successful in eliminating other thoughts. As the thoughts are stilled, the mind gradually and of its own accord sinks back to the source, the hridayam or spiritual heart. Therefore, making the mind dive deep in reality implies making it sink back into the hridayam by freeing it from the tyranny of thought. Japa and concentration on Ishta during dhyana. Even though it is explained at the time of initiation that whereas one may do japa prior to or after dhyana, no japa should be done during dhyana. The import of this instruction is rarely understood. Sadhakas continue to do japa during dhyana or to concentrate their mind on their Ishta Deva or on Swamiji as their Guru. This must be avoided because doing of japa or mental picturization of the Ishta or Guru are also only thoughts, and if persisted in, will obstruct progress in dhyana. Therefore, these methods may be used in the initial stages to calm the mind, but once this has been achieved, japa or concentration on the Ishtadeva should be discontinued, and the sadhaka should aim at keeping his mind concentrated only on Chit, the mental eye and mental ear. It is also not realized by many that apart from the external eye and external ear, all of us have a mental eye and mental ear. because of these mental organs, even if external sights and sounds are cut off, these sadhaka's dhyana will be obstructed by mental pictures conjured up by the mental eye and by sounds and speech conjured up by the mental ear, whereby the sadhaka conducts mental conversations with his mental images. Hence the importance of concentrating the sight at the Brikuti, and if the mental sight is kept concentrated on the Brikuti, it will not be able to create mental pictures. And in the absence of these pictures, there will be no scope for mental speech either. Progress during the initial stages. It will thus be seen that a sadhaka who sets out on the dhyana marg will be prone to make many mistakes and will have to face some initial hurdles. But if he persists in his practice and resolutely overcomes these hurdles by the methods indicated, he will soon find his path smooth, and he will start progressing in his sadhana. In the very early stages, as control of mind is gained, the sadhaka will start attaining periods of thoughtlessness. These periods will normally last for just a few seconds, and then because the sadhaka's alertness slackens, thoughts will shoot up again. The only answer, of course, is to regain control of the mind, no matter where and how frequently the restless and wayward mind may stray. It must be brought back, made still, and again concentrated on the Prakriti. Thus, during the initial stages of the sadhana, the periods of actual dhyana, which implies those periods when the mind and sight are completely stilled and fully concentrated, may be achieved for only a minute or so during the entire 1 hour, or more devoted to the practice of dhyana. However, as dhyana practice continues, the length of the period for which the mind can be held still, as also the frequency of such periods, will both increase. This alone is the measure of progress in one's dhyana. To be continued.